Alrighty, let me kill the music in my ears because oh my gosh, that is loud. Alrighty, well, welcome everyone to the episode 15 of TIL, the Interchain Lab. Um, we have obviously myself, we have the Water Spinner, and we have Doug, James, and Fab from Calc.Fi, and we are very excited to have them. Before we get started, I do want to inform the community of an upcoming proposal by the OSL. We realize that it's just under 2 months before our next funding proposal, yet, truth be told, the market is not conducive to large spends right now. We're well aware of this, and we realize that an ask such as our last one would most likely fail based on just headcount and numbers alone. So the proposal that we are planning to put out here, actually, I'll be putting the Commonwealth post out today after the show, will be a simple text proposal that will be asking the community to vote upon whether the OSL should continue through the next half a year in any form. Just we already are working on a plan of action for an extremely, extremely reduced spend that will ultimately result in some initiatives being cut in favor for maintaining our sovereignty and providing amazing support and moderation for the osmosis community. Yet we wanted to ensure that our efforts essentially won't be in vain. And the community has always guided us through tough times, and even our strongest opponents are some of our best allies in giving us ideas and methods to move forward more efficiently. And as always, we intend to ensure full services through the end of this funding cycle, regardless of the outcome of the text proposal, per our last proposal. But beyond that, I also, on a lighter note, want folks to stick around if they can, because once again, we'll be drawing names for active participants and viewers to win Aussie NFTs. So don't let that influence your vote, though. That's not what that's about. However, Water Spinner, why don't you get started with our friends?
All right. Yeah. So before we really get into it, find out more about Calc.Fi, I just wanted to ask Doug and James to just give us a little background before you got into crypto, kind of getting into crypto, and then also your first dealings with Cosmos. So yeah, any of you guys can take that away.
I'll jump in. So I'm a Kiwi. I didn't start out in software. I did all sorts of different jobs before I started to teach myself to code, and from there, I sort of fell into enterprise cloud accounting software for a number of years, and then took my skills and went off to do sort of mobile development. That was kind of my real passion until sort of maybe 6 months or so before the Terra collapse. Fab dragged me across into crypto, and we had a whole bunch of different ideas that we started to try to build on the Terra blockchain, and then obviously that all came apart, and there's a bit of soul searching that happened after that, and then I actually got a call from Fab again with a similar sort of proposal for some crypto thing for us to build, and it's kind of all been pretty rosy since, and here we are.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I studied engineering. I have had a thick background in operating systems and networking development, and then I started to crave a little bit more human involvement and solving people problems. So I moved to a consulting space and spent a lot of time working full stack in web applications, and then decided I was done with consulting. Because there was too many people problems, and then have now landed in the startup space. And then I met Fab, and he timing lined up for me to jump on Calc, and that was what I kind of got a sense that I was involved in crypto before then, until discovering the world of Cosmos and stuff like that. I I'd always sort of followed along Bitcoin and Ethereum, followed the news and stuff like that. I remember, I think, seeing a Google chat. Do you remember that? That was back Gmail chat or something, and I was saying how Bitcoin had become $9 and I'd missed the boat. And then sort of followed along since then, and then discovering Cosmos was amazing. I think I was super excited to hear about. Well, I guess learn about DeFi and learn about how these different apps, different platforms, different blockchains can like build on each other. Maybe I was a little bit of a Bitcoin maxi before then, realizing that all these things can interconnect and build a ecosystem. So it was super exciting to discover.
Yeah, I think in Cosmos you might find yourself in good company of Bitcoin maxis, possibly.
Right.
I think that a lot of us possibly came from that space too. Yeah, so it's awesome to hear that you guys, it all just kind of fell in place together. James, that's really cool to hear that you kind of got yourself into coding, started up yourself, all getting your own motivation moving forward. So now, talking about Calc Finance that you guys came together with. So UFab, you guys all got together and came out with Calc Finance. So what's the general overview in bringing in what this is bringing to Cosmos? And I guess did this idea first come because you saw it as something that was missing, in general investment strategies? Did you guys see this before, and have you always kind of wanted to play around with dollar cost averaging and strategies?
Yeah, I think maybe I could speak to that one quickly. It wasn't necessarily that we're looking for a problem. I think this is very much we felt the problem. I see a fellow Hellcat in here. I know we also already mentioned the Terra days, and seeing so many people get wrecked so bad, it's almost this cult-like behavior on like anything you disagreed with. There's no problems whatsoever. People struggle to take profit. People put emotions in front of pretty much everything. And if you look at that, those that were the most emotional and making emotional-driven decisions most likely got wrecked the most. I mean, I had a lot of friends that completely dropped out of crypto after the Terra collapse. And so when we came together, having felt a lot of that pain, as I'm sure many of the people on this call have as well, we wanted to create, Captain Planet. We wanted to create a platform essentially that could help people, either make exactly as it's named, a calculated decision to invest, making decisions up front and sort of let it run with it. So that's how we kind of got into the dollar cost averaging, and then speaking to our users, adding more features in there, and then we challenged ourselves on the machine learning component. Can we build something that outperforms the market, but maintains the same favorable risk profile? And then from there, again, continues to work with the users, looking at things like weighted scale, in and out, etc. So it's a bit of the background. It comes from a shared pain.
I don't want to say I like that because I don't like where the reasons with the Terra collapse of us all getting wrecked, but it speaks a lot that you guys are coming out and making this with firsthand experience and being the ones that might be doing emotional trading or something like that. We've all fell victim to that, and then also just wanting to help others that to navigate these crazy waters with a more calculated approach, with less of an emotional tie to it. So I think that's extremely valuable what you guys are bringing to this talk. Before I move on, is there anything else that you wanted to ask real quick?
No, but I do find it really interesting. We're talking about the Terra crisis and the Terra situation, that I called it last year. And it really was only about a year turnaround before you're like, you know what? Let's get back in the saddle and do something worth a damn. And I love that.
Yeah, it was an explosion of building, right? Like it was a teardown of retail users, but it was like this explosion of people building and trying to figure out like, okay, well, let's see where that went wrong and improve upon that tenfold.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think as Sunny put it, it was a supernova.
Exactly.
And that
Yeah.
post supernova gateway conference, it's a lot of teams that also followed in the same path, and it's amazing to see, different Cosmos chains starting their own L1 Cosmos chains, etc. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was a hell of an event. But some people picked themselves up and dusted themselves off and kept building, which is always good to see.
Yeah. Destruction can definitely bring strong rebuilding, as we can tell. So this brings me to my next point, that you guys you're building, you're shipping, you're putting things out. So first off, congrats on the V2 launch. That's absolutely amazing. I know that you guys had some stuff going on before that, but it's awesome that you were able to get everything worked out and make that happen. So with that, I just wanted to ask, if there's any news or events you can tell us that happened in testnet to kind of help mold your algorithms. What did you see in testnets that helped you move forward? And while we're talking about that, if you could maybe speak on some things that might have helped more in the testnet setting, maybe some things that can be improved on for builders and alike.
Yeah, I can jump into that. I mean, we were a little bit lucky in that when we bought Calc to Osmosis, it wasn't the first time that we built those smart contracts, and it wasn't the first time we built those smart contracts in a Cosmos environment. So we were a little more sort of battle hardened. Obviously, Osmosis has its own unique ways of interacting. I'm actually it was really nice to see the slightly deeper integration rather than just interfacing with purely smart contracts. Obviously, the chain itself is a little more optimized for trading, and it's kind of the central piece of the Osmosis chain. So that was a nice way to solve the problem that we hadn't really interacted with before or seen before. So that definitely, it was just interesting to see, and it was quite enjoyable to build against. I don't think anything particular in testnet changed the way that we build things. With Calc, I mean, from a product perspective, is very much trying to avoid market dynamics or take advantage of them in ways. But from a technical perspective, it's kind of we don't actually depend or react to sort of market dynamics so much. We kind of obviously there's DCA Plus, which does take into account a lot of the wider macroeconomic factors, and we use that to make some decisions. But for the most part, Calc is really just a whole bunch of tools that we give to the user to then customize their strategy in whatever way they want. Like obviously price floors and ceilings, and time intervals and swap amounts, and all these sort of just like quite unopinionated tool set, quite an unopinionated tool set. And so it kind of in a way is reasonably agnostic to the underlying market that it's working on top of. As far as we're not trying to take advantage of a situation where there's been a price swing and there's a whole bunch of liquidations or anything like that. It's very, from a tech perspective, we've tried to keep it sort of as simple as possible in terms of how it interacts with the market, but give, I guess, people who are using it, the end user, as many tools as possible so that they can then, they can bring the market knowledge, or they can try to predict or bring their philosophy of what the market dynamic's going to do over the next 10 days or 10 weeks or 10 months or 2 years, and use our tools in whatever way that they wanted to. So I guess it's kind of a bit of a cop-out as far as like answering anything specific from testnet to say that it didn't really teach us anything. But I guess it's more sort of the nature of the product means that it doesn't really, going to a testnet doesn't really teach us a lot.
Okay. So I guess that'll go into the next question that I have real quick about, I was reading your dollar cost averaging plus medium article before and was looking into the back testing windows and stuff. showing that you guys were testing on unseen data and whatnot. Can you just expand a little on that and kind of how you I guess what the DCA Plus strategy was consistently able to do with this unseen data and how that translates into, I guess, what your machine learning algo will do with the seen data.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure exactly what that's referring to, but I assume it's basically talking about how it predicts.
Yeah,
Yes,
actually,
yeah.
Cool.
if you want, I could probably handle that one. I think we have one of our team members. He's actually finishing his PhD at the moment, so he's off of us for a month. But yeah, essentially with the machine learning side of things, it's very data intensive, very data heavy. Hence why our current support is only of the larger or the blue chip type assets that have enough data that we can be confident. I think we took a bit more of a conservative approach in the sense that you can train a machine learning algorithm on seen data, and you'll come to a particular prediction set. Some people have the point of view, especially in the financial markets, that any backtesting is irrelevant and not useful. But I think for us, we really wanted to challenge ourselves to say, okay, can we build a product that maintains the same favorable risk profile that dollar cost averaging offers, right? I mean, the downside of some traditional dollar cost averaging is, if the market is up only, you're significantly better to lump sum in straight away. I mean, the market's almost never up only. We see that all the time. So it's kind of bits and pieces, but especially in the lead up to a bull run, for example, you're most likely to, put more on the table in that volatile asset and capture the gains. So we wanted to offer, the best of both worlds here. One where maintain favorable risk profile, but then with the lump sum, can we optimize the growth? So again, running through a lot of unseen data in the sense that we would cut the sample size in half and run it on X number of years. And we went into quite a little bit of detail, and I think there's a lot of figures in the DCA Plus white paper. We actually introduced a unique algorithm for doing this that we'll probably publish a paper on, I think as soon as Tommy finishes his PhD. And then post that, we also ran it live in production just to, check, because the day it's all well and good if someone says, yeah, it's going to do this thing, but until it's actually in market, it gives us some solid confidence.
That's exactly kind of what I was looking at. I was looking through some of the regular dollar cost averaging algorithms and stuff, and I'm seeing that you guys are bringing in this new time dimension. Is that right? Like you got your algorithm is kind of looking at an extra dimension of where that time coefficient can play in. And
yeah, definitely. So I think the kind of key fact here, and it doesn't formally have a name, but I think we'll publish a paper out, because we are literally the pioneers of this particular product. Not only not done in DeFi, but not done in TradFi or whatever you might call it. And I think it's for a number of reasons, right? Yeah, exactly. Risk averaging is the one. But yeah, we think it's quite a unique core concept. I can drop actually the white paper link in the group chat if anyone's interested in checking out the figures. I think we also put together a Explain Like I'm 5 version of it as well that kind of breaks it down. But yeah, I mean, really simply put, and removing all the technical detail, essentially it assesses market risk. It looks at market risk up until that particular point in time. And then it kind of uses market risk to assess that what is the likelihood of a crash coming in the next X period, depending on how long your strategy is meant to last for. And then it will essentially modify that buy or sell coefficient to a point where there's maximum cap level or minimum cap level, so you always get some exposure. But yeah, if that is the simplest way to explain it, I believe it may be. And then it essentially determines to buy more or less pending market risk.
Yeah, that definitely explains it a bit. And it's like it's moving along with the number of days that you're choosing to dollar cost average it and everything. Real quick, I think we're about to soon enough. We'll be getting into the demo part. But I did just want to ask real quick. I also see that right now you have models, they are not updated on chain. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the actual machine learning algorithm itself, we run that every day because we obviously get new data every day. But that's a very data and compute intensive process, so we don't run that in the smart contract themselves. So basically the process runs off chain, and then we bring the constants. We basically come up with these coefficients that are we adjust how much you buy and sell by, and it's not necessarily that all the vaults use the same coefficient. The coefficients sort of modified according to how long your vault is scheduled to continue to run for. So there is another element of time, I guess, that falls into this, and that's basically the algorithm is designed to optimize for basically performance by the end of the execution of your vault. So if you've got a vault that's only going to run for 10 days, that'll use a different coefficient to one that's going to run for another 90 days or 150 days. So those coefficients get posted to our contract on a daily basis, and then when the vaults are executing, they just pick that coefficient up and adjust the buy amount appropriately.
And that the coefficient affects the risk score, correct? And then the risk score is or is
that's
it
exactly
okay?
Yeah, that's exactly what they are. So basically, yeah, the risk, well, it's kind of an inverted risk score, I guess, in the sense that the lower the risk of there being a crash, the higher that coefficient.
The higher, and then the higher the buy amount for that daily daily buy. Okay,
that's right.
That's awesome. So now when we start, so let's real quick talk about just smart contract interaction real fast. Last time. Last episode we had Croncat, and we were talking that they would be called upon by external agents that would then execute those contracts on your behalf. So can you walk us through, and if this is a good time to bring that demo up, you could walk through it at that time. Do whatever works. But I guess just on creation of a strategy, we are creating a smart contract, right? How is that smart contract called? Is it immediately called, and then does it redo every day? How are you guys working those smart contracts into chain?
So when you create a vault, basically we create a trigger on the blockchain, and all of the smarts around that trigger is basically is stored on the contract. So we have an off-chain scheduler, we call them. Some people call them like a pumper. Some people call them workers. Basically just something that's running on a schedule that's off-chain, but it doesn't actually contain any of the logic. It just calls a very simple endpoint on the contract itself, and then the contract can check, is this vault ready to be executed or not? And if it is, it'll execute it, and it will also create the next trigger. So all of the scheduling logic and all of that actually sits on the contract itself. And the off-chain stuff is just a very simple scheduled task, basically, that's calling into the contract.
Okay. I guess I'm wondering. Oh, sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was going to just add to that it is actually, because all of the logic to execute the vault lives on the contract, the call to like pump the contract to execute is permissionless. So right now we do that all of our south, like Calc basically has and runs the off-chain infrastructure that pumps those contracts. But conceivably, if you wanted to, you could pump your own contract.
Interesting.
Or anyone's contract, but it's not going to, those vaults are not going to execute before they're ready, because the logic for that execution lives on the contract itself. So if you try to pump someone's vault but it's not ready, then it's not going to do anything. So it's not a security concern at all, because all of the actual logic's on the contract.
And it just looks silly at that point.
Yeah, then you're just wasting I don't know, AWS dollars or something.
You're wasting gas.
Yeah, that's right.
Todd, did you have anything else you wanted to ask on that?
To be completely honest, no, you guys have explained it very well. We love hearing the really crunchy ideas. And I know that you guys also have a presentation that you wanted to do for us. You should be able to share your screen very easily for those who can't, for those who want to. And let's walk right into that.
Absolutely, yeah, I'll jump in. All right, is this coming through?
Yes, it is. So for really quickly for everyone, in order to see like full screen, make sure that you go ahead and click on Doug's screen or Shrug's screen, so that way, or tap, so that way you can actually get a full view. It is streaming to us in full. What is that? 2K, 60 frames a second. Let's go.
That's this. This is Alienware screen.
Yes, let's do it.
All right. Cool. So I've got here the homepage of Calc. This is the view with when you're connected to a wallet. We've got here a little banner to tell me I'm a pro because I've already got 2 strategies set up. But this is a bit dynamic, depending on sort of the stage you're at with the app. We've got some stats here: 2,181 strategies created across Osmosis and Kajira, with $1.3 million total swapped. I think for this demo we could jump in. I'm thinking maybe we'll create a weighted scale in, but just to show you here, this is the page with the different strategies you can set up. Regular DCA in, DCA plus we've talked about, and this is the new strategy from V2, weighted scale in, which we'll jump into. And there's some strategies here, DCA out, of the same kind. Basically, the distinction here is a DCA in strategy compared to a DCA out strategy is one where you're DCAing from a stablecoin into, well, you can DCA into another stablecoin if you would like. Awesome. So I'll jump in, weighted scale in. This takes us to this multi-step form that we've got set up here. So first of all, we can jump in and create a strategy with USDC. I'm going to spend big today and go 70 cents.
Wow.
And
wow.
yeah,
You're a whale.
Yeah, this is real money. All right. And of course,
This is not played.
Yeah. This is, we'll jump into, I think we'll DCA into some Osmo. Cool, so here we've got some options. This is our customized page where we can select the execution interval as a V2. This is quite customizable. You can set the increment to whatever you want. So we could say every 2 minutes, every 2 hours. Let's go 1 minute. Maybe we'll get another one in our demo here. We'll spend big again and go 10 cents every swap. And so what we've seen here is your basic DCA, but now we've got new to weighted scale in is to be able to adjust the swap multiplier. Following this mathematical equation here, where the different price action based on a base price you'll either swap more. What is it? Swap more and swap less depending on the price, and you can increase that using your multiplier. This is the basic setup. For many users, this will be enough, but you can jump into advanced settings. You can set a strategy start date if you want to wait for a specific date and time, and there's a little calendar here and stuff like that. But I think for today, we'll start immediately. For weighted scale in, you can apply the multiplier on both price increases and decreases, or just increases or decreases, depending on whether it's a DCA in or out. By default, you're setting the base price of your strategy to the current price, but you can jump in and you can set that price to whatever you would like. You can set this is the case for all DCA strategies, you can set a buy price ceiling or sell price floor, so you won't swap over or under that price, and set your own slippage tolerance. But for now, let's keep things simple. We'll drop the advanced settings and head through. So once you've set up, you've customized your strategy as to what you do for the swap. When you swap, you can set up a post-purchase action. This is sort of the destination of where you want to take your funds after they're swapped. You can send it to your wallet. That's the default. You can send it to another wallet. You can send this straight to a validator if you'd like, and stake with any of these validators here. You can also reinvest these swaps, so you may have another strategy where you want to send these funds, and then that strategy will then DCA into another asset. One thing you can do with this is loop back into the same strategy and create a looping strategy, and you can also generate yield with some assets.
Nice. That's actually really cool. The fact that it's all kind of in one card, let's say, is exactly the type of UX experience I think is what's going to make the difference in a DeFi world. Truly, it's really, really nice to see that. So you said the generating yield is through Mars, correct?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. Does your site then just link over? Or
Yeah. So what the experience is like you'll just be able to select the option for Mars, and then the swaps then we'll send those once you've made the swap, that'll send straight to your Mars account.
Oh, okay. So basically, you're not directly interacting with the Mars dApp.
Well, no, not the
Like,
dApp in,
not the
in terms of
front
the
end.
UX.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
using the connected to the code. Yeah.
Just wondering, because Mars is one of those dApps that is technically geo-blocked. So it's just a consideration that I know would be on the minds of a few people who say live in the States. So yeah, no, that's really cool. I actually have a question from Pickle, who is one of our best question askers, to be completely honest.
Pickle.
And besides working on dollar cost averaging and making a great UX experience for where to move those funds, is there any sort of alpha plans that you can reveal to us about other type of products?
I see Friction's unmuted. I'll let him take it.
Oh, geez. All right. So I think that that swap space is quite interesting to examine, right? And we kind of talk about with reoccurring swaps, you just essentially are adding an extra dimension to swapping, right? Where if it doesn't need to happen immediately, you add the extra time element of it, you get to things like reoccurring swaps, DCA, etc., whatever it might be. And we're quite user-centric, user-focused. A lot of these strategies have been designed by users. A space that we're actually currently exploring is looking at bringing on different dynamic information, much like we run DCA Plus, but allowing users to select what dynamic information they want to inform their swaps. So we've had a few requests, maybe a simple example, maybe a good example, maybe a bad example, but something like using RSA or RSI, to determine how much you might want to swap, or a simple moving average, or an average price accumulated in one strategy, and then you can feed that into another. This is where it gets a little bit more more degen friendly, I guess, not immediately straightforward. But again, it's all kind of streams from demand from particular users. So I think that's a space we've been exploring, and then continuing essentially to work on that. And then I think there's a big angle here where you've got a lot of things around making these protocols or DeFi protocols or any sort of protocols a lot more easier to access. So we've got a few things in the works for that. But that's essentially, I think, all I'll say for now.
All right, that's actually really good. Now, I know that you had responded to Captain Planet earlier in the chat, but he added on, so is the swap fee coming from the wallet balance or from the initial deposit that you're putting into the smart contract?
Yeah, I can quickly answer that one. I don't know, Jimmy, if you want to walk through more of the technical detail on that one. But yeah, I mean, depending on the strategy, for example, like DCA Plus, everything that happens on Osmosis, the fees go to Osmosis, and that's taken out of the swap, not the wallet. So you're actually going to deposit a certain amount. But yeah, I mean, for DCA Plus, there is no additional swap strategies on top of, or swap fees on top of the Osmosis swap fees. It's purely performance based. But yeah, I don't know, Jimmy, if you want to talk about when the swap amount is deducted.
Yeah, I guess it's reasonably simple. Just we take the fee out of the amount that you've received after you've swapped. To just really nail that down. It's not super complicated. And I guess, yeah, for DCA Plus, Fab kind of spoke to that. There's more of a performance fee than a swap fee. So you only actually ever pay a fee if you've outperformed what regular DCA would have done.
Okay. All right. I actually wanted to, if you could just like click back to the reinvest tab.
Yeah.
Thank you. So these are just DCA strategies, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
These could be DCA Plus or other weighted scale strategies as well.
Okay. So Pickle's question, another question was, is it possible to do a DCA back into a liquidity pool position?
I can grab that if you like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so we actually invested a bunch of time and built out the capability to invest into liquidity pools. And then we actually ended up kind of moving towards depositing into Mars instead, just because it didn't make a lot of sense to have your investment thesis be, I'm going to DCA into this token, or I'm going to take profit on this token, and then take that and deposit it into a liquidity pool that basically nullifies your exposure to the token that you're DCing into. So it didn't make a lot of sense. And we only really realized that after a while of working on it. So we were a little embarrassed. We did have a little bit of a laugh about that. But
yeah, I mean, this is something that I think everyone has to learn at some point in their life. You can put a whole bunch of work into something, your passion, your gumption, right? But knowing when to walk away is the tough part, right? Knowing when to say, you know what, ooh, it doesn't make sense what we're doing. Let's change course. So that's honestly the real lesson out of all that, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to show us on the app, on the DApp while you still have it open?
Yeah, totally. I'm not sure how much time we have left, but I've got a few more minutes. We can.
Yeah.
I think let's jump in and sort of create the strategy. Yeah, actually, on the topic that you mentioned just before, like I think we spent extra effort in making this form a multi-step form, something that was easily consumable. And so here we've got the summary of all the steps that you've taken. You can look over and you can kind of in sort of human language sort of talk about read a bit about what you've done. So I've deposited 70 cents. I'm starting immediately. This is the maths of the swap amounts, the base amount, and we've got this little information there. If anything you want to do, if you want to change anything that about this, you can click on these and jump back into that step.
Honestly, that's real fun. Like
yeah,
the fact that those are like clickable and interactable, but also natural language is really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, you could create an app like this and it can be the bare minimum in terms of UX, and you can have one big page, really boring fields, and you can release that pretty quickly. But we took the time to split this up into fields. All these steps are sort of persisted in the browser storage. You can refresh, you can go back to somewhere else on the app and return to it, so you're not at any risk of sort of, I don't know, refreshing accidentally, losing all the stuff that you did, and stressing about it. So those are the extra steps that we took. It adds to complexity, but I think it ends up feeling like quite a robust experience.
Yeah. Water spinner. Did you have? I see that you're back, and you seem to be stably back. Did you want to ask one of the other questions?
About bringing Calc to Kepler Mobile. That
Yeah.
was yes.
When?
That was yeah.
When?
I actually exactly. I didn't want to ask a question. I just kind of want to say when.
Well, yeah, actually, Friction just replied to that as I see as well, and yeah, we're in talks with them even today, and so hopefully things will line up with that.
Yeah, to be honest, your UX here and your user card here it looks very mobile optimized to begin with, which
Yep.
to a credit to your UI designers and your front end designers and workers for honestly doing the right thing by designing for mobile first and then
Yep.
working on a bigger screen, as is kind of the standard these days. To be frankly honest, it's really great to see Adapt come by and want to do right and take their time. And honestly, all you guys needed to do was make sure that you had the ability to put up the contracts, which is really good. And it just is nice. It's beautiful. It's
Yeah.
pretty.
Totally, and yeah, it's I think it's so fun to build an app and try to make it as smooth and nice and beautiful of an experience as possible.
Yeah. If you don't want to show anything else on your screen share, that's perfectly okay. I know that Pickle had another question because Pickle always has a question. And
Yeah.
go ahead,
Actually-
Water Spinner.
Sorry, actually, I might
Yeah.
say, Doug, I'm not sure if you want to show the like the analytics dashboard and all that kind of tracking, because the other thing that's quite important is making data-driven decisions, right?
Right.
I mean, I've seen previously people didn't know what the average price in. I've actually seen people before buy an asset and thinking they're selling it in profit because they had no idea what the average price was and actually making a loss.
Yeah, totally. Well, why don't I can create this strategy. We can show a bit of the details pages and then jump into some questions.
Yeah, perfect.
Awesome, cool. So we've got the strategy ready to go. I think I'll accept the terms and conditions. You've got some free fees breakdown here to review.
Very nice.
And yeah, we jump in. There'll be a Kepler little confirmation here you won't be able to see. And if I hit approve on that.
That's a nice little animation too.
That's a very nice animation. We've got some people working on them. And there it is, a little confetti explosion. Now that's
what's funny is I know exactly what library you used.
Oh yes, I'm sure.
It's because it's a popular library, but it does well.
Sensible default. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome, and there we have it. So if we jump into the strategy details, we'll be able to see a little bit about our strategy, strategy ID, and stuff like this. We've got because this is a weighted scale strategy, we've got information here about the swap multiplier and stuff like that. So from here, we've got some charts. This one's not particularly interesting right now, but what I'll do is I'll jump in and show a bit more stats from a strategy that's been running in DCA Plus. But before I do, I'll just see, so that you can kind of have a look a bit of these strategies. Because they've just started, we've got no real sort of interesting stats, but over time you'll see what you've accumulated, what you've swapped, when the strategy is expected to end, stats that you've set here. Actually, while I'm in this page, it's probably worth just mentioning on the fact that you can jump back into this form and update your post-swap action if you want to change where your funds are going after the swap. this is how you can also create a looping strategy, because you can't quite set up a strategy to loop into one that doesn't exist yet. So you can jump back in here and loop back to one that you had to make after the first one. You can top up your wallet. So this is so your strategy. So this is the same as a reinvest, but you're sort of doing it manually. And we've got a little mysterious edit button here, which is a feature only available to admins right now. So watch this space. Oh, you can see here we've got another little swap happening, because we did set it to 2 minutes, and you can sort of see a bit of information about that swap. Yeah, great. So what I'll do is maybe I'll stop sharing the screen. I'll jump into my actual wallet, which will have something a little bit more substantial. But,
well, thank you for showing.
Yeah. So oh, what have I done? Yeah, here we go. So this is a strategy I made. This was on the Kajira blockchain. DCA Plus strategy, and you can see there's a bit of a different view here. If you did set up with DCA Plus, you do get some stats about your DCA Plus strategy in the same way that you saw before, but we compare it to what you've done, what you would have been doing if you were just doing a traditional DCA strategy. And you can see here that my DCA Plus strategy performed 1% better than the traditional DCA, starting back in April. And so this is a bit more interesting with our stats here.
Yeah, no, that's honestly, I think what crypto folks love is charts and graphs and data.
Oh yeah, and it's fun to make as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely.
I wonder if you can guess the library for this one then as well.
There's a few of them you could
There is a
use.
few.
There is a few you could use, but truth be told, I'm just glad I'm not looking at TradingView.
Oh yeah.
Like raw TradingView with no edits and anything. That's what makes me happy.
Just the plug and play TradingView.
Right.
Yeah.
It's rough. It's rough.
Oh yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So you can see here. This is the views. Let me see if I can jump in here. So this is like the same chart that you saw before, but with a little bit more substance over a few months. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
And then this is a view specific right now, at least specific to DCA Plus, where you can compare the swaps that you've made between traditional DCA and DCA Plus, as well as a view of the ETH price over time as well.
Very nice.
And that is that's what I was planning to demo, but any other questions? Happy to answer.
I mean, one, having more than just one is great, because you guys can jump between talking and also responding in the chat, which is absolutely amazing. Like, love to see that. And like, ultimately, what would you say? So obviously, I would call what you have done here a very successful launch. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And two, what would you say would be the next logical step for Calc to take for just your DApp life to take, and what would you hope for, let's say, the ecosystem as a whole in the future?
Maybe actually I can jump in and answer that one. Yeah, I think like for the future for us, we're very first principles driven in the sense that we always ask ourselves, can we deliver value? Do we earn the right to deliver that value and capture something for it? And this is also why we don't have a token. We haven't done some wild launch, etc. We're really just heads down, building products that people love, and working with the users of the ecosystem to do that. So as mentioned before, I think that there's a lot of emphasis kind of put on this idea of different dynamic inputs and different dynamic data to modify buy coefficients, sell coefficients, whatever it might be. And I think that swapping space is something that we're really interested in adding different dynamics to. So I think like that's probably going to be a large focus in the short term. I mean, we we work hard. I think we've been working like 7 days a week for a while now. But I mean, the positive output is that we can ship a lot of stuff constantly. So I think maybe today or tomorrow we'll ship the edit strategy function for individuals. We'll allow some extra features in between that. And then I think for the ecosystem, like that's a really great question. I think, and maybe Path, I'll give him a shout out, because even a very skeptical man or woman, I'm not quite sure, I think it's always important to have something like that in the ecosystem, kind of push the boundaries a little bit, make sure challenge your thinking, make sure you don't end up in an echo chamber. I think like for the Cosmos ecosystem, I really, 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 really value tech. I think Path actually has a different thought on that. I think building in like EVM, for example, compared to Cosmosm, it's just so much simpler, so much better. We could do cool things like this Office Edge setup. You're in custody of your own assets. You go to Mars, it's already in your wallet. You're auto staking, it's in your wallet. You don't need to come to Calc to claim it, etc. And I think that it's obviously it's a challenging time at the moment. We've got the app chain thesis kind of playing out, and then you had this big L2 like roll app thesis on Ethereum kind of try to take over that, and then people realize the fees on there are still quite expensive if there's something happening. But there's this idea that we can get to this idea of having sovereign chains and these app chain thesis. I'm really looking forward to snaps, to be honest. I feel like if you have more of a narrow vision just in the DeFi ecosystem, still most of the users are actually on Ethereum. I think that's something that Injective, for example, does quite well, enable people with MetaMask to come use Injective apps. I'd love to see on Osmosis, which I know this will happen once Snaps goes live, people can use their own MetaMask wallets, etc. But I think like more broadly speaking, and this is maybe the only thing that maybe not the only thing, this is something I actually did appreciate back from the Terra days, is this idea of there's actually a broader ecosystem of people and problems to solve outside of what's currently in crypto. So I think that for us is super interesting to look at. That for us is super interesting to solve. And I think I think I said this on the updates from the lab Twitter space. That's something actually I really rated the first time I actually heard Sunny speak. He had this idea that, oh, will you list the Osmo token on a centralized exchange? So like, no, if people want it, come onto the decentralized exchange, right? And it's this idea of, ensuring that everyone still has custody of their own assets, but can we actually offer a better experience than you would on a centralized exchange? Because right now, people are typically left with like significantly easier UX and more tools versus giving up your sovereignty or giving up your custody of your assets. I don't think it should be like that, right? I think us here, especially in this particular bear market, is that we're here building the fact that we should offer tools that are maintain custody, maintain your own assets, have better tools on chain, right, and open access and equal opportunity for everyone. So I think like that for us is quite an interesting space to look at, to explore, to push, to challenge each other, to do something there.
Yeah. That is. Go ahead, Tam.
Oh God, that just was a whole bunch, and I just wanted to touch real quick on how excited I am for Snaps as well.
Yeah.
Opening up MetaMask and basically the Ethereum liquidity potential to everything that we're offering. It's kind of like what side of the fence do you want to be on right now? Well, we're just working on tearing down that fence and making it one big field.
Exactly.
All right. Well, Water Spinner, do you have anything else?
I think I am pretty good. This went amazing. I was super happy to have you guys on, and happy that you guys were excited to be here. And all the guests had amazing questions. Our outline expanded upon and built. We went off course and had great talks. It was amazing.
Right. I absolutely want to thank you guys so much as well for coming along, bringing the whole crew sort of deal, and helping talk about your product and also the how you see the ecosystem, and getting into the nitty gritty. It's absolutely amazing. Before we ask like where people can find you and where they can connect with more Calc.Fians, that's not a good word. Come up with a better word. Before we ask that, I did want to say we have done a old-fashioned dice roll for those in the audience and those asking questions to win an Aussie. So I'm about to drum roll, please. And it is congratulations. So I would request that if you have won, Mike, congratulations. Severin, Captain Planet, M Constant, and Dobby. Which Dobby is I've seen you around. Yes, Dobby is a free elf. So please DM either Waterspinner or I with a stars address that we can send an Aussie to. We will also be handing out honorary Aussies to our guests from Calc.Fi. We'll be asking for your stars address if you have them back in our channel. Mike does work for Croncat. He was actually here last week. Not last week, but wait, was it last week? No, the week before.
Something like that, yeah.
It all blurs together. It was an absolutely wonderful time. So please DM us as you need. And then now we're going to ask, where can we find you? Where can people connect? Where do you put out your silly tweets?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think maybe just before I answer that question, I want to say really appreciate obviously hosting the space, and typically on a lot of Twitter spaces, people always want to kind of talk really like product focused. I think it's like really unique, and we actually really enjoy this because core, I think everyone but one person on the team is an engineer. So yeah, I appreciate that. If you ever want to talk technical, we love it. If you want to push the boundaries on the front end, I know like Doug's done a lot of really crazy stuff. Jimmy, you mentioned before, he kind of talked to you at a high level, but he's like core for core built a lot of really cool smart contract stuff from ground up. So we're always open to chat technical. We're always open for partnerships. So that's always open. But even if you want to talk anything, you can reach us on Twitter, which is Calc_finance. Or you can reach us on Telegram, which, to be totally honest, I'm not quite sure of the Telegram URL. But if you find us on the Twitter, or you go to our website, calculated.fi, it will all be there.
Excellent.
It looks like Fluffy Donkey has provided the Telegram link as well as the Twitter link, and also the homepage.
See, it works when you travel with a crew,
Good stuff.
Yeah. Everyone's got to roll in packs now. I guess that's the way to go.
You know what?
But
it's always better to roll in a pack with friends who will not only say yes to you, but will call you out on your BS sometimes.
Yes,
exactly. Reminds me of the Hangover, the wolf pack from the Hangover, right?
The wolf pack.
Yeah.
Tog, Waterspinner as well. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for being here. Everyone else that did attend, absolute legends. If you have given Calc a shot already, I appreciate the thoughts. And I saw a few people drop lines in for the DCA Plus stuff. So really rate it. I mean, we're going to keep building. So if you want to see something cool built, hit us up. You want to see something crazy built, hit us up. We do love a good challenge. But yeah, really appreciative of everyone being here. And big thanks as well for hosting, and for Jimmy Gads and Doug to be on as well.
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, feel free to drop your stars address in our chat, so that way we can get you those Aussies as well. All right, guys?
Legend. We actually have a few Aussies, but I'll drop the stars address in there.
That's great. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day. We will see you again soon.